Okay, so a 3D printer is pretty much like a hot glue gun. This is what people are most familiar with, and what this does is it gets hot and then you put the glue in it, it melts the glue, and when the glue dries or cools down, it gets harder. So a 3D printer has the same concept as the hot glue gun, but instead of using glue, we use a filament, which is a plastic, and this is a biodegradable plastic, and it's the same concept. You load this into the extruder, which then gets hot and it melts. And the same way you send a PDF file to a regular printer to print out, you send a file to the 3D printers and they print out, but it's a different file. It just gives the 3D printer points to go to and instructions on what it needs to do in order to print out these 3D printed files. And then, so from your computer, you save the file from your computer, and then you send it to the printer and you print it off. Okay, so what we have here is a file that is already printed. So what we do is we have to take our tool and remove it from the bed, because the way it works is it sticks to the bed so that it doesn't move around while it prints. Because if it moves around at all, then it messes up the print, because the computer is smart in a way where it knows the points where it needs to go, but if it moves, it has no way of knowing that it's moved, so it just keeps printing. So if it messes up, you get what we like to call spaghetti, which is just a bunch of filament that just goes all over the place. And once we remove that, we're able to print another file. So the way we do that is I have my file here on this USB drive, and we tell the printer that this is finished and tell it that we want to print another file from our USB storage here. And we have several things to choose from here that we scan from our scanner. And just the way the hot glue gun heats up, we have to wait for this to heat up to the right temperature before it'll start printing out, before it will actually print. That way the computer knows where it's at and it knows its position and stuff before it starts printing. Here's another example of a print that was printed out last night, and you can see this is a mask, but it has this other material that's on it. Now, if it's printing out and there's nothing underneath it, it won't print out. It will only print at so much of an angle before the filament starts to drop. So what you actually do is you put material in here that you don't need just to hold the material that you want. So what we do on certain prints is we take the support material and we just break it off, because this is only, you can see it's not solid. It's just so that your solid areas can print out without messing up. So what we usually do, you have to go through a little bit of a process where you go through and you rip out all of the support material, and then you can even sand this down and clean it up and then paint it so it looks really nice. That was support material, but here, this is what we call a raft. Sometimes we do this to make sure that it sticks to the plate while it's printing and it doesn't move around, because this has less surface area. There's a possibility it could move while you're printing. So we do a bigger surface area on the plate, that way it sticks to it. And when we pull it off, we can just take this off and we have a nice clean. So it makes it cleaner, and you can see it's kind of small for me, but you can do all kinds of cool things. Now, this one's almost ready here. It's telling me it's moving into position. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna go over here, and then the plate's gonna rise up until it touches the nozzle. And when it touches the nozzle, there's a sensor in there that tells it that it's in the correct position. So that's part of the process. It just says it's moving into position, so it's just checking to see where the position's at. It's not actually printing yet. Once it knows where it's at and it's heated up to the correct temperature, then it'll start to print. So here's one of the software programs that we use, and all the files need to be files that a 3D printer recognizes. So this is one of the files called the STL file, and it's Rick. And what our software program's telling us is that he's too big for our bed because this is red. So what we can do in this software program here is adjust the settings and make them bigger, smaller, and make it so that we can print them out the size that we want. Adjust the size. So there we go, we shrink them down a little bit. I should have shrunken them. There we go. And now we see the red marks have gone away. Now we know he's the correct size for the bed that we're printing out on. So once we make all our adjustments and get everything the way we want it, we adjust our settings and then we send it to the printer. We just hit print. We choose what printer we want to print it out on, and we'll hit print and send it to that printer. And the cool thing is, when you select a printer, the printer will pop up and you can see we actually have a camera that'll show us what's printing and what the printer is doing. That way too, we know that nothing is on there before we tell it to print something out.